My fiancée vanished to party overseas with her ex 2 weeks before our wedding, so I investigated what really happened, and what I discovered about her family's conspiracy shocked everyone. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. 2 weeks before our wedding, Mia Thompson called crying about a family emergency in Europe. Her grandfather was dying, she said, voice trembling with manufactured tears. She needed to fly out immediately for the funeral. The wedding would have to be postponed just temporarily, she promised. I held her while she sobbed, stroking her dark hair and whispering that family came first. We'd reschedule everything. Love conquers all obstacles. 3 days later, scrolling through Instagram at 2 a.m. because sleep wouldn't come, I saw the truth. Mia's story tagged her location Ibiza, Spain. She wore a tiny bikini, champagne glass raised high, grinding against her ex-boyfriend Derek in a crowded nightclub. The timestamp showed 11 p.m. exactly when she'd called me crying about funeral arrangements. My coffee mug shattered against the kitchen floor. There was no dying grandfather, no family emergency, just my fiancé choosing another man over our future. The betrayal burned through my chest like acid. 5 years together, 2 years engaged, hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on our dream wedding. Guest lists, venue deposits, catering arrangements all discarded so she could relive college party days with the man who's cheated on her repeatedly. I screenshot every image, every tagged location, every laughing video of her dancing on tables while I explained to relatives why our wedding was postponed indefinitely. My hands shook as I called Paul Thompson, her father, at 7 a.m. Surely he'd be horrified to learn his daughter had lied about a family death to party with her ex-boyfriend. Paul would demand she come home immediately to face consequences. Brandon, his voice was cautious, distant. How are you holding up, Paul? I need to show you something about Mia's trip. She's not at any funeral. She's in Ibiza with Derek, partying while our wedding guests cancel travel plans. Silence stretched between us, then Paul cleared his throat. Son, sometimes people need space to figure things out. Marriage is a big commitment. Space? She's supposed to marry me in 11 days. She lied about her grandfather dying. Look, Brandon, Mia's been having some doubts. Maybe this trip is good for her. Let her have this time. My stomach dropped. You knew she was lying about the funeral? We just want her to be happy, son. If she's not ready. I hung up. Her own father knew about the deception. This wasn't spontaneous panic or cold feet. This was calculated betrayal with family support. The people who'd welcomed me for Sunday dinners and holiday celebrations had conspired to help their daughter humiliate me publicly. Renee Thompson answered my next call after 4 rings. Mia's mother had always treated me like a son, buying birthday gifts and remembering my preferences for family gatherings. Surely she'd be mortified by her daughter's behavior. Oh, Brandon, honey, she sighed when I explained what I'd discovered. I know this looks bad, but Derek reached out to her. He's been having a rough time, and Mia has such a caring heart. She just wanted to help him through his depression. By lying about a death in the family? By abandoning our wedding? Weddings can be rescheduled, sweetheart. Mental health crises can't wait. Mia was torn between helping Derek and disappointing you. She chose compassion. What about compassion for me, for our 5 years together? Sometimes we have to make difficult choices about who needs us most. Derek was in a very dark place. I stared at my phone after she hung up. Mia's family had reframed her betrayal as heroic sacrifice. She wasn't abandoning our wedding, she was saving a suicidal ex-boyfriend. I wasn't a betrayed fiancé, I was a selfish man who couldn't understand true compassion. They'd created an alternative narrative where she was the hero, and I was the villain for expecting basic honesty. The screenshot folder on my phone grew thicker each day. Mia posted constant updates: sunset beach dinners, couples massages, romantic walks along Mediterranean coastlines. She'd removed her engagement ring, replaced it with a promise ring from Derek. Her captions talked about finding myself and choosing authentic happiness. Comments from her sorority sisters praised her bravery for following her heart. Derek's friends celebrated their reunion and posted throwback photos from their college relationship. I showed the evidence to Daniel Whitaker, our mutual friend from university. Daniel had been planning to be a groomsman, had already bought his suit and booked hotel accommodations. Surely he'd be disgusted by Mia's public celebration of infidelity, while I handled the aftermath alone. Dude, this is rough, Daniel said, scrolling through the photos on my laptop. But maybe she's going through something. People do crazy things when they're scared of commitment. Scared? She's posting couple photos with her ex-boyfriend. Look, Brandon, I don't want to get in the middle of your relationship drama. You guys need to work this out between yourselves. Relationship drama? She abandoned our wedding, and that sucks, man. But maybe there's more to the story. Mia's not a malicious person. There has to be some explanation. Daniel handed back my laptop without meeting my eyes. Even our closest mutual friends were finding ways to avoid taking sides. They'd rather preserve their friendship with both of us than acknowledge the clear betrayal evidence. Social dynamics trump basic morality. When confrontation became uncomfortable, I called 10 more mutual friends. Each conversation followed the same pattern: initial sympathy, growing discomfort as I showed evidence, eventual retreat into neutrality. There are two sides to every story. Maybe you should talk to a counselor. These things happen for a reason. Our social circle was collectively deciding that maintaining group harmony mattered more than addressing obvious misconduct. The wedding was supposed to happen in 6 days. Lillian Carter, our wedding planner, called daily asking for updates about guest count and catering adjustments. I'd been telling her postponed indefinitely, while hoping Mia would come to her senses and return home. But watching her Instagram stories of romantic dinners and beach walks with Derek, I knew she wasn't coming back. She'd chosen her new life. I needed to face reality and cancel everything officially. Brandon, I need definitive answers, Lillian said during our Friday afternoon call. The venue needs final payment by Monday. Catering needs confirmed guest count by Sunday. I can't keep extending deadlines. Cancel everything. The wedding is off permanently. Oh honey, I'm so sorry. Are you sure you don't want to just postpone? She's in Europe with her ex-boyfriend. Lillian, there's no wedding to postpone. After we hung up, I sat in my empty apartment surrounded by wedding gifts and travel brochures for our honeymoon in Hawaii. The silence felt suffocating. Every text notification made my heart race, hoping it might be Mia apologizing and begging to come home. Instead, I got vendor cancellation confirmations and sympathy messages from relatives who'd heard about the postponement. Through family gossip networks, my phone buzzed with a message from Serena Wyatt, a friend from work who'd noticed my declining performance over the past week. Hey, you look terrible. Wanna grab coffee and talk? I know a good therapist if you need someone professional to process this mess. Serena met me at a quiet cafe downtown, listening patiently as I explained the whole situation. Unlike our mutual friends, she had no social connection to Mia and no reason to avoid taking sides. Her reaction was immediate and unambiguous. Brandon, this is emotional abuse. She's publicly humiliating you while playing victim. Normal people don't handle relationship doubts by faking family deaths and running away with ex-boyfriends. You need professional help processing this trauma. She handed me a business card for Dr. Oliver Price, a therapist specializing in relationship betrayal and emotional manipulation. He helped my sister after her divorce. This isn't about marriage counseling. This is about rebuilding your ability to trust your own perceptions after someone gaslighted you into questioning basic reality. That afternoon, I called Dr. Price's office and scheduled an emergency session. For the first time in 2 weeks, someone with professional expertise would help me understand what had happened and how to move forward. I wasn't crazy for feeling betrayed. I wasn't selfish for expecting honesty. Mia's behavior was objectively wrong, regardless of how her family and friends tried to reframe it. Dr. Price's office had soft lighting and comfortable chairs that made it easier to talk about painful subjects. I showed him the screenshots, played the recorded conversations with her parents, and explained how our mutual friends had responded to the evidence. Brandon, what you're describing is a coordinated campaign to make you doubt your own judgment, he said after reviewing everything. When someone's family helps them deceive a partner, then reframes that deception as heroic. It's designed to confuse the victim about what's actually happening. Your reactions are completely normal and healthy. But her mother said she was just helping Derek through depression. If someone wanted to help an ex-partner with mental health issues, they'd discuss it honestly with their current partner and find appropriate boundaries. They wouldn't lie about family deaths and post romantic photos online. This was calculated deception, not compassionate caregiving. The validation felt like oxygen after drowning. A trained professional was confirming what my instincts had been telling me from the beginning. I wasn't overreacting or being possessive. Mia's behavior was objectively betrayal, and her family's response was objectively manipulation. What do I do now? She's supposed to be back next week, but I don't think she's planning to return. You protect yourself legally and emotionally. Document everything, consult with an attorney about any shared assets or contracts, and prepare for the possibility that she'll continue trying to rewrite history when she does come back. I left his office with a clear action plan and a sense of personal agency I hadn't felt since this nightmare began. Instead of waiting helplessly for Mia to decide my future, I was taking control of my own life and making decisions based on facts rather than false hope. 3 days later, my phone rang with Mia's number. My heart hammered as I answered. Despite everything Dr. Price had said about emotional preparation, Brandon, oh my God, I'm so sorry I haven't called. This whole trip has been so overwhelming with the funeral and family stuff, and Derek's been really struggling. Mia, stop. I've seen your Instagram. I know you're not at any funeral. Silence, then her voice changed completely cold or defensive. You've been stalking my social media. Stalking? You posted everything publicly. You tagged your locations in Ibiza nightclubs while telling me you were at a funeral. Those were from before the funeral. I needed some time to decompress after the service. There was no funeral, Mia. Your parents told me you had doubts about the wedding. They knew you were lying. My parents don't understand the situation. Derek was suicidal, Brandon. I had to choose between helping someone in crisis and disappointing you. I chose to save a life. Even now, even caught in an obvious lie, she was doubling down on the hero narrative. Derek wasn't suicidal, he was posting party videos every night. But Mia had convinced herself that her betrayal was actually noble sacrifice, just like her family had suggested. If Derek was suicidal, why are you posting couple photos and romantic dinner dates? Why did you take off your engagement ring? I'm not discussing this with you when you're in this paranoid state. You're acting like a controlling stalker, monitoring my every move instead of trusting me to handle a crisis. She hung up. 20 minutes later, I received a text message. I think we need some space to reevaluate our relationship. This level of possessiveness isn't healthy. I'll be extending my trip indefinitely. The reframing was complete. I was now the problem possessive. Paranoid. Controlling. She was the victim of my unreasonable demands for basic honesty. Our 5-year relationship and 2-year engagement were casualties of my inability to understand her compassionate nature. I forwarded the text to Dr. Price immediately. His response came within an hour. This is classic Darvo deny attack, reverse victim and offender. She's making you the perpetrator and herself the victim. This confirms everything we discussed about emotional manipulation. That night, I changed my relationship status on social media to single and posted a simple statement due to circumstances beyond my control. Our wedding scheduled for this Saturday has been cancelled. Thank you to everyone who offered support during this difficult time. Within hours, my phone exploded with messages, family members demanding explanations, friends offering sympathy, Mia's sorority sisters posting angry comments about my passive-aggressive public humiliation of their friend. The narrative war was beginning, and I was finally fighting back with truth instead of silence. Sunday morning, I drove to the wedding venue to personally oversee the cancellation process. The coordinator was professional but clearly uncomfortable, probably dealing with similar situations regularly. Deposits were lost, but insurance would cover some vendor cancellations due to abandonment by essential party. As I signed paperwork in the venue's office, my phone buzzed with a message from Daniel. Dude, Mia's posting some serious stuff about you online. You might want to check her story. I opened Instagram to find Mia had posted a lengthy story about emotional abuse and controlling behavior. She described a fiancé who monitored her social media obsessively, accused her of lying about family tragedies, and didn't understand her need to help a friend in crisis. She talked about red flags she'd ignored and manipulation tactics designed to isolate her from supportive relationships. Comments flooded in, supporting her bravery for escaping an abusive situation. The irony was staggering. She was describing her own behavior while projecting it onto me. She was the one who'd monitored and controlled information. She was the one who'd lied about family tragedies. She was the one using manipulation tactics. But her version was spreading faster through social media than truth could travel through private conversations. I screenshot everything and sent it to Dr. Price. His response was swift. This is the predictable escalation. She's building a public case for her behavior by making you the villain. Don't engage on social media, it will only provide her with more material to use against you. Monday afternoon, Paul Thompson called me directly. His voice was stern, paternal, the same tone he'd used when scolding Mia during her rebellious teenage years. Except now it was directed at me. Brandon, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but this public humiliation of my daughter needs to stop. Canceling the wedding on social media, making her look like the bad guy when she's dealing with a family crisis. Paul, she's posting couple photos with her ex-boyfriend. There is no family crisis. Derek needed help, and Mia provided it. But instead of supporting your fiancé through a difficult situation, you turned it into some kind of investigation. You've been harassing her friends, monitoring her social media, trying to control her response to a legitimate emergency. I showed you the evidence. She lied about a funeral. She was protecting Derek's privacy about his mental health struggles. But you couldn't trust her judgment or give her space to help someone in need. Now she's afraid to come home because of your controlling behavior. The conversation ended with Paul threatening to involve lawyers if I continued harassing their family or spreading false narratives about Mia's trip. Her parents had fully committed to the alternative reality, where she was a heroic caregiver and I was an abusive stalker. Facts were relevant when family loyalty demanded alternative explanations. Tuesday evening, I attended a small wedding for acquaintances from college, a simple ceremony I'd served up to 2 months earlier. Before my own wedding planning consumed my social calendar, the irony of watching other people's happy beginning while my engagement crumbled felt almost cosmic. During the reception, I spotted a familiar figure across the dance floor. Mia stood near the bar. Wearing a blue dress I'd never seen, Dereka's arm wrapped possessively around her waist. They were back in town, had been back for days. Judging by her recent social media posts from local restaurants and bars, she'd extended her trip indefinitely, then returned without telling me, and immediately resumed public dating her ex-boyfriend. Our eyes met across the crowded room. For a moment, her confident expression faltered. She whispered something to Derek, who turned to stare at me with obvious hostility. Then Mia approached my table with purposeful steps, Derek following like a protective bodyguard. "Brandon," she said, voice carefully controlled, "I didn't know you'd be here. Funny, I didn't know you were back in town. Your text said indefinite extension, plans changed." Derek needed to be back for work obligations. Of course they did. How convenient that Derek's mental health crisis coincided perfectly with your need to escape our wedding. Then resolved itself just in time for you to attend social events with him. Derek stepped forward, chest puffed out. "Dude, you need to back off. Mia doesn't owe you explanations about her personal decisions. Personal decisions? We were engaged to be married 5 days ago. She canceled our wedding by lying about a family death so she could vacation with you. That's not what happened, and you know it," Mia said, her voice rising slightly. Other wedding guests were starting to notice our conversation. "I had a family emergency. And you turn it into paranoid accusations because you can't handle me having male friends." "Male friends? You posted couple photos and romantic dinner dates. I was supporting Derek through depression after his grandfather's actual death. But you were so focused on controlling my response to a crisis that you couldn't see the bigger picture." The lie was evolving in real time. Now Derek's grandfather had died, not Mia's. The romantic photos were grief support. The engagement ring removal was temporary stress response. She was rewriting history while looking me directly in the eyes, confident that her version would be more socially acceptable than the truth. "Show him the texts," Derek said to Mia. "Show him what you were really going through." Mia pulled out her phone and displayed a conversation thread I'd never seen before. Messages between her and Derek dating back 6 months, discussing his grandfather's declining health, his struggle with depression, her offers to help him through the crisis. The timestamps showed ongoing emotional support that had escalated into urgent crisis intervention just before our wedding. But something was wrong with the screenshots. The formatting looked off, different fonts, inconsistent spacing. These were fabricated text messages, created to support their alternative narrative. They'd actually taken time to manufacture evidence of the story they wanted people to believe. "This is fake," I said, studying the obvious formatting inconsistencies. "You're calling me a liar." Mia's voice carried clearly across the reception. "You're so desperate to make me the villain that you won't even believe written evidence." Guests were definitely watching now. An engaged couple arguing at someone else's wedding was creating uncomfortable tension. The bride glanced over with concern, probably wondering if she should ask us to leave. "Mia, these text messages have different formatting. You created them to support your story. This is exactly what Dr. Martinez warned me about," she said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "Abusive partners will deny evidence, even when it's right in front of them. They'll claim documentation is fake, rather than accept reality." Dr. Martinez, she'd been seeing a therapist too, probably to build professional support for her victim narrative. Now she was using therapeutic language to make me appear mentally unstable in front of a room full of witnesses. "You're projecting," I said quietly. "Everything you're accusing me of is exactly what you've done." "I'm not doing this here," she said, grabbing Dereka's hand. "This is exactly why I can't come home. This level of paranoia and control isn't safe for me." They walked away together, leaving me standing alone near the wedding cake while other guests whispered among themselves. I'd been publicly painted as an abusive stalker at someone else's celebration of love. The humiliation was complete. I left the reception immediately and drove home in silence. My phone buzzed constantly with messages, probably from people who'd witnessed the confrontation and wanted details about what they'd seen. I turned off the phone and sat in my empty apartment, surrounded by wedding gifts I'd never return and photos of a relationship that had never been real. The next morning brought a certified letter from a law firm representing Mia Thompson. The document formally requested that I cease all contact, direct or indirect, with their client. It cited a pattern of harassment and stalking behavior, including social media monitoring, third-party interrogation, and public humiliation tactics. The letter threatened legal action if I continued any attempts to contact Mia or members of her family, I was being served with a cease and desist order for trying to understand why my fiancé had abandoned our wedding. The legal system was being weaponized to silence my attempts to seek basic answers about her betrayal. She'd constructed a complete alternative reality, recruited professional support for her victim narrative, and now enlisted lawyers to prevent me from challenging her story. Dr. Price's emergency session that afternoon focused on processing the legal intimidation tactics. This is the final stage of the manipulation, he explained. When emotional and social control fails, some people escalate to legal threats. She's making it legally dangerous for you to tell your side of the story. Can she actually get a restraining order? I never threatened her or contacted her obsessively. Probably not, based on what you've shown me. But the threat itself is designed to silence you and make you appear dangerous to others. It's a calculated move to complete her narrative transformation. So she just gets away with everything? She destroys our relationship with lies, humiliates me publicly, and now I can't even defend myself? You can't control her narrative or force other people to see the truth, but you can control your own life and recovery. The best revenge is building a better future without her. 3 months later, I moved across the state for a new job opportunity. The fresh start felt necessary after months of awkward encounters with mutual friends who's chosen sides or retreated into uncomfortable neutrality. My new colleagues knew nothing about the wedding disaster or the legal threats. I could rebuild my identity without constantly defending my version of events. Serena texted occasionally with updates about Mia's social media presence. She'd made her relationship with Derek Instagram official, posting anniversary photos from their reunion and celebrating their second chance at love. Comments from her friends praised her bravery for leaving a toxic situation and choosing authentic happiness. The alternative narrative had become accepted reality within our former social circle. Dr. Price had been right about the manipulation tactics, but wrong about one thing: the best revenge wasn't just building a better future. It was understanding exactly how someone could systematically destroy a 5-year relationship with lies, recruit family and friends to support those lies, then weaponize the legal system to prevent their victim from telling the truth. The documentation I'd gathered, screenshots, recordings, legal letters, formed a complete case study in emotional manipulation and social engineering. Mia had demonstrated that with enough confidence and family support, someone could rewrite reality and make their victim appear mentally unstable for questioning obvious deceptions. But she'd also revealed something important about the people around us, our mutual friends who'd refused to acknowledge clear evidence, her family who'd helped orchestrate the deception, the wedding guests who'd watched her publicly gaslight me and chosen to believe her performance over documented facts. They'd all shown their true character when basic moral clarity was required. Moving forward meant accepting that some people will choose comfortable lies over uncomfortable truths, especially when confronting reality requires them to acknowledge their own poor judgment or moral cowardice. Mia had successfully exploited those weaknesses to avoid consequences for her choices, but she hadn't destroyed my ability to recognize truth or trust my own perceptions. Dr. Price's therapy had reinforced my capacity for healthy relationships and appropriate boundaries. The legal threats had failed to silence me permanently, just temporarily, while I rebuilt in a location where her influence couldn't reach. 2 years later, I married someone who valued honesty over narrative control, who discussed relationship concerns directly rather than through deception and manipulation. The contrast was stark. Healthy love felt remarkably different from the constant drama and confusion I'd mistaken for passion with Mia. Sometimes mutual friends from our old social circle reach out with updates. Mia and Derek's relationship had predictable problems apparently. Someone who will abandon a 5-year engagement for an ex-boyfriend isn't great at long-term commitment or honest communication. They'd broken up and reunited twice, each cycle creating more public drama and social media theatrics. I felt no satisfaction in learning about her continued relationship problems. The point had never been revenge or vindication. The point was understanding how manipulation works and building immunity to future attempts. Mia had taught me valuable lessons about recognizing red flags, trusting my perceptions, and choosing people whose actions matched their words consistently. The wedding that never happened had saved me from a marriage that would have been built on lies and emotional manipulation. Her betrayal had been a gift disguised as distraction, an opportunity to escape before legal and financial entanglement made separation more complicated. I was grateful for the clarity, even though the process of gaining it had been temporarily devastating. Looking back, the signs had been present throughout our relationship. The way she'd reframe her mistakes as my overreactions, how she'd recruit others to validate her version of events whenever we disagreed, her tendency to create dramatic emergencies that required immediate attention and prevented deeper discussion of relationship problems. I'd interpreted these patterns as passion and intensity rather than manipulation and control. The abandoned wedding had forced me to develop skills I'd never needed before: how to document evidence systematically, how to maintain emotional stability during gaslighting campaigns, how to seek professional support instead of trying to handle betrayal alone. These skills served me well in subsequent relationships and professional situations where similar dynamics emerged. Most importantly, I'd learned to trust my instincts about people's character based on their actions rather than their explanations. When someone's behavior consistently contradicted their words, the behavior was the truth. When someone recruited others to validate their version of reality, instead of addressing direct questions honestly, they were probably lying. When someone escalated to legal threats rather than having difficult conversations, they were prioritizing control over resolution. Mia Thompson had taught me everything I needed to know about recognizing and escaping emotional manipulation. The education had been expensive and temporarily painful, but ultimately invaluable. I was stronger, wiser, and better equipped to build genuine relationships based on mutual respect and authentic communication. The wedding that never was had become the foundation for a marriage that actually worked. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe to check out more stories on my channel.